Today we're going to learn how to graph quadratic equation using the roots. Probably today is the first time that you hear that word roots, but it shouldn't be a new concept for you guys because we talked about zeros. And remember that when we talked about the zeros, we said that the zeros are the intersection points between, for example, here, if I marked these 2 points right here, and then I drew a better parabola here. So let's say I drew a parabola like this. Now those 2 points right here are called zeros. If you remember from the last section, we call them zeros because they happen where y is equal to 0 right here. Also, these numbers, when I put them into the quadratic equation, I get the quadratic equation to be zeros. So today we are going to learn how to find the zeros. And another word that we use for the zeros is root. Sometimes we call them roots, sometimes we call them zeros. So whenever you hear the word roots or you hear the word zeros, know that they mean the same thing. Also sometimes, that's rarely happens, but sometimes they call them the solution. So whenever you hear those three terms, a solution to the quadratic equation, or roots, or zeros, then they're talking about the same thing. So let's go ahead and look at the example we have right here. Now to find the zeros or the roots for this quadratic equation, it's really easy because we did it in chapter 8. All you have to do is just find the two factors of this quadratic equation. We learned how to find factors of a quadratic equation by factoring the quadratic equation. So let's go ahead and try to factor this quadratic equation right here. Now we said the first term goes here, and then the last term goes in the last square. And we said that for here we're looking for the two numbers. When we multiply, we get 4, and then combining those two numbers, we need to get -4. So you need to try different numbers, and I can see 2 times 2 is 4, but when you combine them, you're not going to get -4, you're going to get +4. So how about -2 times -2? It's +4, and then when you combine them, you get the -4. So the two numbers to fill in here is -2, -2, and then x. Find the greatest common factor here in this row, and that's x. Greatest common factor here is between the 2 and 4, it's 2. And you have a negative on the outside. Since you have a negative on the outside, do not forget to pull it out. And then here x, and then here it's -2. Now these are my two factors, x minus 2, x minus 2. Don't forget to put the 0 there. Now to find the roots or the zeros, we solve for each one of these. So for here, we're going to set the first factor to 0 and then set this factor to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. Where did I get this from? Just setting the first factor here to 0 and the second factor to 0. And then solve. So x here equals 2. And then do the same thing here. X equals 2. So here we see that the two zeros, or the two factors here is 2 and 2. So we mark it here, I can see that this quadratic equation right here will have 1, 0 because you have the x equal the same number, so it's going to be 1, 0. And remember, we talked about this in section 1, that you could have 3 types of quadratic equations. You have one with no solution, one with 2 solutions, and one with just 1 solution. And this is a type that has only 1 solution. So the roots here is x equal 2 and x equal 2. For the vertex, since this one has only 1 solution, the parabola is going to go through that 1 solution. But if you want to check that, you can go ahead and use the formula. This is the formula we've been using, negative b divided by 2a, to find the vertex. Now b is 4, so negative 4, and then 2a, a is 1 right here, so 2 times 1, negative is positive, so it's 4, and then 2 times 1 is 2, so here we have this is equal to 2. And you can see that this is what we expected because we have only 1, 0. So we're trying to draw the parabola here. So we can use the vertex, and we can use the y-intercept. We said yesterday, this is A, this is B, and this is C, that C is your y-intercept. So we can see the y-intercept here is 4, and the axis of symmetry is right here. Same distance from this point to the axis of symmetry is on the other side also. So you have here the distance 1, 2. So there's another point on the other side here also. So it's 1, 2. And now you can draw that parabola. And here's how your parabola looks like. Now when you're creating this flip chart, you don't have to do all the work on the flip chart. You can do it on a separate piece of paper and just include the roots and the vertex and the graph for the quadratic equation. Also, there's some problems that are kind of tricky. For example, here this doesn't equal to 0, so make sure you make it equal to 0 by subtracting 6 from both sides. So your quadratic equation should look something like that. Also here, this one doesn't equal to 0, but you know that you're looking for the roots or the zeros, so you can make it equal to 0 and then find the roots and find the vertex. And then here, this is difference of square. Remember, difference of square is really easy to factor. X, and then here this is 1 times negative 1. So here you're gonna have x plus 1, x minus 1, and these are your factors. You're looking for the zeros, so make sure you're solving for the zeros. So set each one of these to equal to 0 and find the roots.